Episode 459 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic is live, and I will be talking all about tonight's WWE NXT The Great American Bash. Who survived the Wild Weapons match? Who walked out as North American Champion, Women's Champion, and NXT Champion? Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, Wrestling Fanatics. Yep, I decided to go live tonight after all. Not exactly right after NXT Great American Bash, but just maybe about an hour and a half after. Since it is a premium live event night, I decided, what the hey, I'll go ahead and do a special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight and talk about the Great American Bash. And let's get right into it. Tonight's NXT Great American Bash was live from Cedar Park, Texas. And our commentators tonight, Vic Joseph and Booker T. I just want to say just a quick note here. I was watching the Great American Bash on Peacock at this time, but for the first half hour, I was also watching ABC for the Celebrity Family Feud featuring the WWE men versus the WWE women. And I'll talk about that a little bit as soon as I finish this Great American Bash recap. But let's just start things off first with the Great American Bash before I got a little distracted there. And we kick things off with the NXT Tag Team Championships on the line. Gallus taking on the Family. And this, I thought, was an okay match. I wouldn't say I've really been that interested in this storyline about I can't even remember the leader of the Family's name right now. Well, like I always say, NXT is probably the hardest wrestling show on for me to get interested in, but I don't know why I can never remember this guy's name, but the whole storyline and the guy Stax, I remember his name though, or at least his nickname anyway. And I watch NXT every week, but it was just that when the stuff with them came on and the storyline, I just kind of zoned out because I just lost interest in it right away. But this match wasn't too bad, and the Family does win the NXT Tag Team titles, And I'd say 2.5 out of 5 ring bells for this opening match. And it is now time for the Wild Weapons match. We have Roxanne Perez taking on Blair. Sorry, I'll get it right eventually. Blair Davenport. And now this match I enjoyed more. I thought this was actually a pretty good match between these two. Of course, it's a Wild Weapons match, so as expected, they used a lot of weapons. And in the hometown of Roxanne Perez, I mentioned on this morning's episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans that on Post Wrestling, when I've been listening to them, they've mentioned lately in WWE and AEW, as of late, it seems like when they're in a wrestler's hometown and their family's in the crowd, they end up losing. But Roxanne Perez broke that streak tonight, and she gets the victory against Blair Davenport. Got it right that time. But this was a good match, and I'd have to give this one 3 out of 5 ring bells. Pretty good match here. Like I said, just my opinion, but I enjoyed this one more than the tag team title match. And I've been a fan of Roxanne Perez for quite a while, back when she was Roxy in Ring of Honor in the Women of Honor division, and on one of the, was it the last show of Ring of Honor, I believe. It might have been the last show, or one of them anyway, or the previous Ring of Honor, when it was still owned by Sinclair, I should say. Her and Miranda Alizé had a match for the Women's Championship. That was very good, I thought. I definitely see a bright future for her, and she's one that I hope when WWE does decide to bring her up to the main roster, that they use her right, and it's not like some of the talent that has been moved from NXT to the main roster, where they just kind of got lost in the shuffle once they went up to either Raw or SmackDown. But definitely see big things for her. And next up, we have Baron Corbin taking on Gable Stevenson, the Olympic gold medalist, which I know he hasn't done much in WWE yet, obviously, but I don't know, maybe he just needs to grow on me a little bit, but so far I'm not a real big fan. And these two it's an okay match, and then it ends in a double count out. They keep brawling, and then they knock down some referees, and then security comes out to try to break it up, and they end up hitting security, and Stevenson ends up throwing Corbin through the barricade. So, just an okay match, I thought. I'd have to go with 2 out of 5 ring bells for this one. I wouldn't say real bad, but definitely not that good either. The NXT North American Championship is on the line in a triple threat match. Dirty Dom, Dominic Mysterio, with Rhea Ripley in his corner, has two challengers tonight, Wesley and Mustafa Ali. I enjoyed this match. I thought it was done very well. Dominic makes his entrance and of course gets booed out of the arena. Wesley and Mustafa Ali do end up teaming a little bit on Dominic during this match. And Rhea Ripley does get involved, and at one point she's on the apron and Wesley dives right over onto Dominic on the floor. But then Rhea Ripley actually hits the Riptide on him through the announce table. And then skip ahead a little bit. It looks like Mustafa Ali is going to get the win on the top rope, about to hit his finisher. But then, or he does hit his finisher actually, but then Rhea Ripley pulls the referee out during the count. Then Dominic goes up top, hits the frog splash on Wesley for the win to retain the NXT North American Championship. I thought this match was pretty good actually. I'd have to go with 3.5 out of 5 ring bells for this one. I expected Dominic to retain and keep him on both Raw and NXT for at least a little while longer. And once again, though, I thought Wesley and Ali had worked very well in this match. And good one here. And next up, the NXT Women's Championship is on the line in a submission match. It is the NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton taking on, representing Chase University, Thea Hall. And I thought this was a good match. I don't know if I would say real good, but good match. I thought Thea Hall actually did pretty good in this one. And the finish sees Tiffany Stratton have the submission locked in, but Andre Chase throws in the towel to cost Thea Hall the match. And so, of course, Tiffany Stratton wins this, even though Thea Hale did not submit. And I think, wouldn't be surprised if this kind of causes some problems for Chase U. But first, the rating, I'd have to say 3 out of 5 ring bells. And now, just want to talk about Chase U a little bit. Not a big fan of the faction or the gimmick. And this might be an unpopular opinion with some other wrestling fans, but actually I would say Thea Hale is really the only good thing about Chase U. And Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, and then they have that cheering section in the Capitol Wrestling Center, the WWE Performance Center, and just definitely not a big fan of the angle or the gimmick. I mean, but Thea Hale, I actually do see something in, and I think she could be really good one day. Or she is good now, but I think she could go on to be a pretty big star in the business. And now it's time for the main event. And it is Carmelo Hayes, the NXT champion, taking on Ilya Dragunov. And this one I thought was a pretty good match. I'd say 3 out of 5 ring bells. And I was actually right in my prediction this morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans, because we saw Carmelo Hayes get the win to retain the NXT Championship over Dragunov, and 3 out of 5 ring bells for this one. Just my opinion. But it was a good match, but I wouldn't say real great either, though. And glad to see Carmelo Hayes retain the championship in this one. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I do think he can improve quite a bit still and definitely become better. I know a lot of the hardcore NXT fans are probably mad at me for saying that he's not great now. And also, they're going to be mad at me for probably saying this too. Ilya Dragunov, I definitely not feeling him. I just definitely not a fan. And maybe it's just me. I just really don't see anything in the guy. I'm not sure why they put him in the main event program against somebody who is pretty good talent like Carmelo Hayes. I just don't really care for Dragunov that much. But still was a pretty good main event. So overall, that was tonight's NXT Great American Bash. And an overall rating for the whole show, I'd have to say, I don't know, maybe going a little low for this one, but 7.5 out of 10 ring bells. I would say there was some good wrestling on the show, but I just say 7.5. Nothing real great, but I admit that it wasn't a bad show either, even though, like I always talk about, the NXT weekly show doesn't always get my attention. And that is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Episode 459. And thank you for tuning in, everyone. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, or if you would like to leave your feedback on the Great American Bash tonight, you can in the comment section, either on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever podcast website or app you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast on. Just leave it right there in the comment section. Also, you can leave your predictions for SummerSlam coming up Saturday, or just anything you want to talk about that's going on in the world of pro wrestling. Hope to be back tomorrow night. Do the Raw recap right here on 360 Wrestling Fanatic. But one thing that is for sure, we'll be back tomorrow morning for the Monday episode of GMWF. Hope everyone has a great rest of your night. Thank you for tuning in to this special live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And until tomorrow morning, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.